Had a tough upbringing. I left home at 15, big drinker. My Jim Bourbon and Karuba were my best mates for 2 years. Because there was a little guy on my shoulder would come up and say, they're all laughing at you.
Yeah.
Have a drink. You're looking stupid,
Yeah.
So it took me 2 years to get over that.
Yeah.
Now I don't give a shit. The biggest adrenaline rush I get is when I see a group of men work together, win or lose. If they're working together for the game we're trying to play, that's the biggest buzz you can get as a coach. I said to my players, once it's all over playing, it's over.
Yeah.
You ain't coming back.
Yeah.
So make the most of it.
What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad.
Oh, what a lad. Well, today I'm lucky enough to be joined by one of the wisest souls you'll ever meet. He's a legend of the game here in New Zealand and has been over the last 4 decades, which included him playing 101 times for Taranaki, as well as representing the New Zealand Māoris. Post-playing, he moved into coaching, where he coached the New Zealand under-21s. He was assistant with the Crusaders, head coach of the Hurricanes, head coach of the Chiefs, and of course head coach of the NPC-winning Taranaki Bulls. He also coached the Junior All Blacks and the New Zealand Māoris. There is not much this man has not done. On top of all that, he's one of the kindest, genuine human beings that there is. It is, of course, the great Colin Cooper. Welcome.
Thank you, Jimmy. Good to be here.
Mate, thanks for coming on. First podcast ever for you. And what a story you have to tell. Like, even reading some of those things out, you've done a lot in your time, your 65 years.
Yeah, very lucky. I was just at the right place at the right time in a lot of those things. When you were reading that out, I think I was working at the Waitree University, as we called it back in the day, and
Which was the freezing works, right?
Freezing works, yeah. And I went there from 15, so I didn't have an old man. You just follow your mates.
Yeah.
You go where the money was. Sweep the floor was $3.60 compared to 80 cents to do a apprenticeship. So where do you go as a young Māori boy? You follow your mates and you do go to the freezing works. So yes, I spent nearly 18 years there, and I'd had enough, and I was either going to go to the police or work for rugby, because the rugby job came up with Taranaki.
Yeah.
So my mates in Waitara convinced me don't go to the police, so I ended up going into rugby as a rugby development officer for Taranaki. And then the following year, in 96, it went professional.
Far out. What age were you then?
I would have been in my 30s, I can't
Oh,
remember.
yeah. So you'd finished your footy career by then.
Yeah, and I'd assistant coach with Graham O'Brien for Taranaki.
Yeah.
So I knew the Slater boys and the Barrett and, Smiley. And so I got into the rugby union, and then, of course, it went professional, and Taranaki and the players had a bit of a, what should I call it, dispute over payment from having the Ranfurly Shield and then not having the Ranfurly Shield, and it all really came back to communication. So in the freezing works, I was a supervisor. I ran the slaughter side. I went from sweeping the floor to
You worked your way up.
Yeah. So I was dealing with the union all the time.
Yeah.
So the union at that time asked me to can I deal with this issue in the contracts. Well, I didn't come in there to do contracts, but at that time I knew the players. I took over all the contracts, sorted that out, and then Jed Rollins came in and then asked me, would you be interested in being the assistant coach? So in that couple of months I went from RDO, contracts manager, to where I wanted to be, assistant coach to Jed Rollins. Yeah.
All right. Did you always love coaching?
Yeah, well, I went with my club, Clifton. So I've retired early because I got injured my neck, and I was only like 27, 28.
Oh yeah.
So what it's like. You mature into the game and understand the game better. And here I was, I couldn't play anymore.
Yeah.
So I went back, coached my club, enjoyed that. We won the title. We won a sevens, and then Graham O'Brien picked me up for Taranaki, and I was assistant coach to him, and so then when Jed Of course, then I had to give rugby away because we went night shift in the freezing west, and that's when I had enough. I had to get out of there. 'Cause
Yeah.
It took me away from my passion, my love of rugby.
Yeah.
And that rugby job came up, and then I ended up being with Jed.
Yeah.
And then Jed went to the Blues, and I ended up head coaching Taranaki.
Yeah.
And then from there, Robbie Deans, I had a year with him, which was outstanding. Again, him and I played against each other. We played with each other in the Junior All Blacks when we were players. And so I already had so again, it was a lot of luck there, isn't it? And so I went down there and learnt so much, but it gave me, down in the Crusader land, it gave me such inner belief as a coach.
Yeah.
Because as a head coach, it's a lonely position.
Yeah.
The people around you, you're picking them and bringing them in, they're your friends. They tell you how good you are, but you still don't give you self-belief that that you can deal with it. So going there and dealing with a whole new crew, they were stars. I think there was like 18 All Blacks in that crew.
Yeah.
And then being able to give them something, or offer them, like the Aaron Majors and so there's so many, Leon McDonald and Azza, Razor Robinson was the number 8.
All these guys have gone on to become coaches.
Gibbo and so there was just so many of them that you learnt from, and you also gave you that belief as a coach.
And did you feel like you were up to it at that point?
Well, after them, I was. I felt really confident because Taranaki, that's okay, because we always think, as you come to Taranaki, we're not the big dogs, eh? And going to a big dog place and being felt that you belong there, and you gave your players improvement in their game was the self-belief that I got from there.
Yeah. And then you obviously took that through to have a very successful coaching career. But I do want to take it back to the start a little bit to get to know you a little bit more from the younger ages. So the upbringing you had in Taranaki, what was that like? Yeah,
well, I had a tough upbringing.
Yeah.
As I said, I didn't have a dad. So
what happened to your dad?
They split up.
Oh, yeah.
And,
just so you'd never talk to him?
No, and then it was because back in those days you were brought up to be quite staunch.
Yeah.
That was the environment we were in, where you never gave feelings. It was always, I think, on the rugby field, as a team you united. You showed love to your players rather than to your family, and a lot of times, and that's when I was growing through that stage. And then, as you mature and you get older, Jimmy, you understand. But back those days as a player, I was quite a hard person to understand, I guess.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things were going around. I think my old man, my father bought me we found out I was in the Maori All Black team, bought me some boots. Well, mate, where the fuck you been for 20 years? Where you been? So, so I should have embraced him, got to know him, have his side, but you didn't do that back those days.
Yeah. Did you have siblings?
Yes, I had a sister and I had 2 brothers. So, I had a full sister, and then mum split up, and then she had 3 more children.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And were you guys all close?
Not really.
No,
because I left home at 15.
Oh, you left home at 15?
Yeah, flatting with my mates in Waitara, and we had steak. The old lady worked at the egg place, so she'd drop off eggs. We'd steak, bread. That's all we lived on. And then we thought, we better put some greens in there. So we'd buy cans of peas. So it was a tough environment.
Grew up fast.
Yeah. You had to grow up fast.
Yeah, you would have had to, I was going to say.
And parties every weekend.
Yeah, was that?
So rugby was like, there was some really good people at Clifton. Took me under their wing and guided me. And,
Yeah.
You know, so I'm as I said, I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
That I had my club, Clifton, supporting me so much.
Yeah.
They brought me back from when I had that injury to coach the sevens. They brought me back to coach and that's where it started. So
Yeah. Was there a lot of drinking and stuff at 15 when you're house to yourself? You're just into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, guys turn up, don't they, with beers, and you just get on it.
Yeah.
I always remember, I used to hate the guys smoking, so we'd be after the games, and this is Premier, they'd come in smoking, and once I became a coach, I got rid of that. No more smoking in the changing room. But that's how we were brought up.
Yeah.
It was, we're going to play hard and we're going to play for each other, but where's the party?
Yeah.
Yeah, where are we heading after? And I think that was just common Kiwi thing, wasn't it?
Did you have ambition to make rugby a thing for you?
No, it was just about being with my mates.
Yeah.
My mates were everything. So rugby gave you that, platform to do that, I guess. And I think now, coaching in Clifton under 15s and seeing a lot of those kids now, no fathers.
Yeah.
I can, and I'm going, rugby's a great platform for them, teach them discipline and teamwork.
Yeah.
That's what it did to me.
Yeah.
And, I think that's what the game has to really think about now, is there's so many kids out there that need that guidance.
Yeah. I hear it all the time on this, of the young guy who was going down potentially two paths, and thankfully they chose sport and it saved them. But you're right, it's such a massive influence to have these role models and, like you say, all the things that the great sport can teach us.
Well, I was that same kid, two paths. Rugby, luckily, I'm pleased, because I had those older guys guiding me to rugby.
Yeah.
And I could play. I felt, that academically I'd only go there to eat my lunch, really, and play for the first 15. That was because that's where I knew I had self-belief in the game and my own ability.
Yeah.
So I was never driven to the academic side.
Yeah. It must have been good to play first 15 if you left at 15 years old.
Yeah, well, when I say I left home at 15, I didn't leave school.
Oh, you didn't leave school?
I was still at school.
Oh,
yeah, but I left home really young.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I had some really good mates where I could hang out.
Yeah. So you were naturally good at rugby, you felt? Or this wasn't a work ethic thing that you put time into it, you were just quite naturally good at it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we weren't coached, we were just coached, hit the ruck. And you hit the ruck, you got the ball. So if it didn't move, that means you weren't hitting it hard enough.
Yeah.
And we didn't get coached about head up, look where you're going to just, hit it and drive and then tackle and run hard. We weren't taught to step, we weren't taught to fend, and we weren't taught about height. It was just run hard.
Yeah.
And you either had it or you didn't. And I think a lot of coaches were really good managers back those days. And then the game evolved where, if you're any good, you got to learn, the skills of the game.
Yeah.
The catch pass, taking the ball into contact, the breakdown. Particularly, like if kids can't catch and pass, and you don't teach them, they won't play.
Yeah.
Because no one will give them the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, back, because there's so many opportunities now, isn't there?
Yeah.
Where back then it was rugby or rugby league.
Yeah. What was your pathway into the Taranaki side?
Young, again. So I think I was about 19 when I did that.
Yeah.
So I was very young, and I was like the new crew coming into the team.
Yeah.
Kieran Crowley came a little bit after me, and Bryce Robbins came a little bit after, but they're my age group, but I was sort of just ahead of them. So I was the among the Murrays and the McEldownies and the Thwaites, and Paul Martins, that group were, they were like in that. I think they would have been 30, around the 30. So I was a young kid. Yeah.
Intimidating for you? How did you find it?
Yeah, it was until you played, because that's what I said. That's when you're on the field, if you didn't think you were good enough, you wouldn't last there. So I got through that.
Yeah. Different sort of culture too back then, wasn't it? Like the old school
took a while.
Yeah.
And once they saw you could play, they embraced you and then really looked after you. But it wasn't just on the field. You had to handle it on the bus and the back seat and understand how all that operated. And, if you didn't if you stepped out of the line, you got sorted out pretty quickly. So, so the drinking culture and, which is what I loved. So I loved it anyway. But I think now you've got to have more control of it. Yeah. You got to guide the kids better than what we were done back in those days.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cars weren't as fast. It saved a lot of us, I think.
Because that's one thing. You don't drink now, do you?
No.
So what was your relationship? Obviously, you loved it back then.
Yes.
What was your relationship with alcohol throughout your sort of career?
Yeah, I was a big drinker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we ended up drinking spirits, and we'd drink, all my crew, and hated smoking, but until I had a beer, and then you smoke a packet. Dave Loveridge was the worst. And Murray Watts, they'd pinch all your cigarettes. So they were the same. But I see they are smoking now. But once I stopped drinking, I didn't want to smoke. I didn't.
Yeah.
Had no reason. So smoking went. Lost 10 kgs.
Did you?
Yeah. So didn't smoke anymore. Started tasting food. Probably the healthiest I've ever been once I stopped drinking.
What age was that?
That was 45 with the Hurricanes.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're having a lot of alcohol issues.
In your team, yeah.
So you can't be a leader and go on about control alcohol when you're up there sculling.
Sculling and smoking. Cigarettes in the ears.
Yeah. So I decided to not drink anymore. And I tell you, it took me 2 years to get over because there was a little guy on my shoulder would come up and say, they're all laughing at you.
Yeah.
Have a drink. You're looking stupid, Yeah. So it took me 2 years to get over that.
Yeah.
Now I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's a lot more accepted these days than it would have been when you gave up. Like it was still, if you're not holding a beer,
Well, particularly my crew, because my crew were all big drinkers. Still are now, a lot of them.
Yeah.
They just shake their head when they see me.
Oh, so you make the Taranaki side. You end up playing over 100 games for them. Any memorable moments or games that sort of stand out for you during that time?
Well, the 100th game we played against Bay of Plenty, and Smith, Crowley, Logan's dad. He was the halfback, and I had my best mate. He made the team his first game. Robin Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Clifton, man. He's in Perth now. And he had his first game and I had my 100th game. And we got a hiding. And our combination was poor and Bay of Plenty just out-passioned us on that. And then my first game, I always remember we played Wanganui. They were tough games. We had to go and play 11 o'clock in the morning because of the races. Yeah, there was some. Played South Africa when we played South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
So, young, you don't know you just want to play the game.
Yeah.
Anti-apartheid, what's that? Don't even understand that at that age because we're in another world. Now, I probably wouldn't have played South Africa now.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding apartheid better.
Yeah.
So, but I played against South Africans and probably my toughest game I ever played.
Was that one?
That one. Mate, the guy Stoffberg at the front of the line out. In those days, you were allowed to balk. And me and Felix said, because in basketball, again, because I was a basketball I played a lot of basketball too. And
Yeah.
we'd faking and then jump, and then we got the first one off him. We didn't get any more after that. And I got smashed by Rob Lowe, who was a flanker. I got the ball and I looked up and he's mid-air flying at me. So we were in a scrum. I was locking that game.
Yeah.
And they turned us, and they had this prop called Lewis Mullerman. I think it was about 120 kegs, which was huge then, but
Yeah.
now it's not so big.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and stomped. I was pinned. He just stomped on my head.
Play on.
And it was just like, to him, it was just, hey, you're under my sprigs. It was that sort of a look. So that's how it was. So I come off battered, but you get over it. And we actually, it was 30 points to 9, if my memory is right.
Good memory.
They were giving us a hiding, and then it rained.
Oh, yeah.
And we came back in our game. Because we were tough forwards, but we didn't have the skills.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think, to match with them. But
Far out. Different game back then, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, it was totally different, and it was an intimidating game back then.
I bet.
Like if you didn't bar up,
yeah,
you didn't last. And
you
then-
had to be tough.
yeah, because if you backed off someone, that spread around in the provinces, and
Yeah, he's a pussy.
and you're going to get it again in the next. So you had to stand up. So you could do that if you had really good supportive players, and so I did. I was lucky with that older crew,
yeah.
and then came through with our younger guys that came through.
Yeah. And you made the New Zealand Māoris, the New Zealand Juniors.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, we did a tour. I got injured on the tour. We did an internal tour with the juniors.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't very good. Then I went away with the Māoris in 1982 to Wales, which was an outstanding trip. I got injured again, and I had choices to stay or to go. I rang my missus up and said, it could be a chance. So I ended up staying on the whole trip. Had a whale of a time. Had to do all the waiata after our visits to the pubs, and running around looking after Billy Bush and
Yeah.
Felix O'Carroll, looking after those guys, Maya Melson. So, so it was a good time.
Yeah. What stopped you from becoming an All Black, you think?
Probably not fit enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Fitness.
yeah, just didn't do the hard work. Jimmy didn't.
Yeah.
If you look at those Bronco times now,
Yeah.
where Lucy's going to be under 5, I was probably about a 5:45.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then by the time I realised that, I was out of the game.
Yeah. So what ended it for you?
I had a neck, so and I told not to play again, tried to come back, injured again, and then said, you're, I can't remember but I was lucky because all the nerves were down, and it was, I don't know what it was called, between the two neck joints, and then you've got the cord, the spinal cord outside and it was pushing.
Oh, yeah.
So I was very lucky again.
Yeah.
So,
Jeez.
but had a pretty good career, rugby playing career, and was pretty blessed that I could come back, because I was, as I said, 27, 28, big drinker. My Jim Bourbon and Karuba were my best mates for 2 years.
Was that once you finished?
Yeah, well, I realised then I had to do something, and that's when the club pulled me back. I had, and lucky Lynette and my kids were there, so I had to take responsibility for them, and it pulled me back on the right track.
Far out. That's crazy. Would you have done anything differently in your rugby career if you had another opportunity?
Oh, yeah, sort of, worked more harder on fitness and balance, rather than living in the gym, and just skills, because skills came a little bit natural for me, but fitness didn't.
Which is quite common, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you got into the bit where you've already sort of touched on around moving into coaching, you got the opportunity with Taranaki, moved down to Christchurch with the Crusaders,
Yes.
opportunity with Robbie Deans, and from all accounts, your family was quite concerned with you moving down to Christchurch because you'd be away from your wife.
Yeah.
And I understand she was the cook, the cleaner, the everything.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
worried how you're going to survive down there by yourself.
Yeah, well, she's one of those women that does everything.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Naturally.
she'll push you out of the kitchen. And I'll go, I'm one of those guys, okay, all right.
I'm happy.
So I go to the first time away,
Yeah.
and I'm down in Christchurch, and she's told me how to go to the supermarket. I've never been in a supermarket. I don't know. Anyway, I finally found the supermarket down there, and I was in there, I don't know, an hour and a half trying to work out where everything was and what I'd need, and then the funniest thing was I rang her and I said, yes, I've done it. The fridge is full and I'm off to South Africa on Friday. That's all going to be off, Colin. Did you? So, I don't know, I was pretty shocking, really, when I think about that. You know, she's a typical farmer's wife, you know,
Yeah.
like, does everything. Maybe that's why I married her. But yeah, she, so living on my own down there, and I got used to that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so.
Is it true you got a cleaner in who you tried to keep secret from the family for a while?
Who's been talking to you, Jimmy? Yes. And I'd give her my tickets.
Oh, yeah.
And so I said, will you have those? Martha, I think her name was. And anyway, my daughter was at university, and I said to her, how's your training going? And she goes, Dad, I've got to do my study and rah, rah, rah. Don't get much time for it. And I said, well, I'm the same. I've got to do my shopping, and I've got to clean. I'm the same, but I still find time. I've got to go and do one-on-ones with players and trainings, but I still find time for myself. Anyway, she said she was coming, and I said to Martha, don't need to come in.
Yeah.
Don't come in. I said, I'm fine. My daughter's coming, and she can do all that. So, yeah, probably Bradley Meeker, because they were next, Bradley and Irene I. And I come back, and she's talking to them. I said, stop annoying the players. They're hard out working, you know. They ain't got time to talk to you. And she goes, I met your cleaner. She couldn't help herself. She had to come in, and then, so it was a bit embarrassing.
The cover was blown.
The cover was blown, yeah.
So then the opportunity up at the Hurricanes.
Yeah, probably too early for me. I
Oh,
should
yeah.
have stayed with the Crusaders, and Robbie
Really?
wanted me to stay, but yeah, there was a lot of pull to come to the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And I think Tana Umaga probably was the last telling me to come.
Yeah.
So,
What was your relationship with him?
well, it grew and grew. I didn't know him.
Oh,
He was wanting me to come up, and
Why was he so keen to get you up? Do you know?
I don't know. It's because I hadn't met him, so maybe
Yeah.
players. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
That's cool.
So, and him and I we had a great captain leadership, coach,
Mm.
probably like we were, Jimmy, you know,
Yeah.
us, understood each other and very tight.
Mm.
So yeah, I always felt his support was always there, and he was good.
And the family moved to Wellington with you?
Yeah, well, after eventually I
yeah.
went there on my own, and then we bought a property.
Yeah.
Had to sell everything to live in one. I mean, it was so expensive. Bought a little apartment, and then we moved the family. Brad was at university,
Oh, yeah.
so he went to Wellington University.
Yeah.
My daughter was on her way, and the older son, he was doing an apprenticeship back here.
Oh, yeah.
On building. So they were. So Delaney had done a pretty good job with him.
And how did you find going into the Hurricanes? Different culture to probably what you're used to at the Crusaders?
Yeah, big difference.
What's the biggest difference?
Probably trying to get them together. We
Yeah.
had Polynesian boys and Taranaki boys, South Island. Everyone was when I went to the Crusaders, that they'd been together for a couple of years. So so it was quite hard to get everyone together. There was a lot of negativity with the team. And Jonah was going, but he stayed one more year, and Cully was going. He stayed 1 week. So there's a lot of in that first year. I remember Jimmy Kays, the reporter.
Oh yeah,
He wrote this big article. Welcome to the Hurricanes, and he says not a hurricane. He had a big zephyr.
Oh yeah,
and it was flat, and it was a picture of a zephyr. Yeah. So it was, welcome to the Hurricanes for me, and I realised that it was going to be a tough job.
How'd you get it? You had success from memory. You had success from the start, like semi-final appearances. How'd you get the group together?
Yeah, we got together, and because we had a lot of soldiers in the team.
Yeah,
we worked together, and we did make a semi-final that first year, and we would always give a taste of what we could be like.
Yeah,
but we never. I guess going to the Crusaders and winning Super. Oh, this is easy. Couldn't get it at the Hurricanes. So I felt really disappointed about that. I've made a final in 2006.
The Fog final.
Yeah, should never have been played.
Yeah,
I was too soft and should have really stood up and went to New Zealand Rugby. And
so how did that go down? Like what happened there before the game? Did they ask you?
They asked us, and they said, "Well, it'll be too hard to change it."
Yeah.
So we're all thinking that we should play it. So in hindsight, I should have said no, because the Crusaders were always going to be stronger at our set piece than us.
Yeah.
And we needed a really we had given. At home, we'd given the Waratahs. The Waratahs are hiding.
Yeah.
And we played,
Yeah.
Our type of game, our edge-to-edge skill game.
Yeah.
But in the Fog, it was never going to be that type of game. It was always going to be set piece to set piece.
Yeah.
Where I think the Crusaders had the edge on us there.
Yeah.
And so it was. It was that bad. You couldn't see from up the grandstand. You had to come down to the sideline.
Yeah.
And you could only see halfway across.
I was at that game. I remember driving down from Nelson to come and watch it, and just sitting in the stands, like, you can't see an absolute thing. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, when I look back on my career, if you want to be an All Black coach, you've got to be more stronger, and you've got to be more ruthless.
Yeah.
That's probably I wasn't.
Yeah.
Enough of that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I shouldn't have. And so I should have just refused to play.
Yeah.
That's how it should, when I look back now, should have been, but...
You reckon you would have beaten them without the Fog? A few guys...
Oh, we would have... The Fog was probably worth 10 points to the Crusaders in my looking back.
Yeah. Well, you lost by less than that, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. Can't remember the score. Doesn't really stay with me, the score. Might have been 19-12 or something like that.
Yeah, you win by, what's that, 2 points. You get the win.
Yeah. So, that was disappointing. And then in the end, I felt that it was time to move.
Yeah.
It was to give someone else. I had 8 years with the Hurricanes. And
good
really
stint,
good support.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of support, board support, player support. So I was very lucky. So I was actually going to go to Glasgow and coach.
Oh, yeah.
And probably Peter Crawford, John Luckin has passed away now. They, with Mark Robinson, got together and said to come back home. And then found out that Lynette and Angie, my daughter was back home, had spoken, he'll come back, his family's here. So it was, that was how I came back to Taranaki.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, through, and I'm really pleased I did.
Yeah, I always wondered why you never did an overseas coaching gig.
Well, that's where I was at.
That was your moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after the Chiefs also, there was an opportunity in Japan.
Yeah.
But by then I needed a breath. I needed to take a step back from coaching. So,
Oh, interesting. And there's a few people you mentioned, Jonah Lomu's one in particular.
Yes.
What was he like to work with?
Yeah, well, he was very quiet,
Yeah.
very popular. I don't know what those sprints are called when you do like
The phosphate.
phosphate.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that?
40 metre times 10. 10,
Yeah.
40 metres. Yeah.
And I said to him, I just want you to try hard in that, because he wasn't playing that well then.
Yeah.
And when I saw him, he was like on his back. He'd really, really put the effort in.
Yeah.
I said to Jonah, look, you're not playing well. How's your illness?
Yeah.
How are you?
So he was ill at the time?
Well, unbeknown to me.
Oh, yeah.
And here I am, a novice coach, going to drop the biggest star in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting with him and talking with him about, you're not getting back. They're kicking the ball behind.
Yeah.
What's going on? And he wouldn't say anything. And then I said to him, it must be your sickness. And he just put his head down and nodded. So then I got onto the All Black doctor, told him. I came back and his was so out of sync, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Didn't play again.
Far out.
Mm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so a lot with Jonah, and a lot of araha to him, and
And Jerry? What was he like?
he was, he's a special man also.
Yeah.
He always said to me, I was trying to show my players to run angles for short ball,
Yeah.
And he's standing there where you are, and he goes, what? And he goes, you get angling on that, I'm going to blindside him. He ain't going to see me. He said, don't teach him to do that. And I went, well, if you run square and then he'll get you, yes, he says. But if you run down straight like you're doing,
Yeah.
I'm going to waste him. And, of course, we played the Crusaders one year, and he did that to Chris Jack. Same thing. I went, I know what you're talking about, Jerry. So then we were trying to run square and then down, late down, when he was telling you, because if he sees it, you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was special when he in the World Cup. My daughter and her partner followed the All Blacks. They did it, the OE, and went to a few games and organised a few test tickets for them. And the All Blacks were coming out, and they were at the airport. And Jerry knew who Angie was, but he didn't know her that well.
Yeah.
And he's walking past, and she waves to him, and he goes through the security, and then he must have clicked. Oh, that's Cooper's daughter.
Yeah.
Back he comes, and he says to her, "You all right?" And she goes, "Yeah." And all the security are back. Come, so you can't come back because you've been through the... He says, "You all right?" And they're all around him, all the All Blacks are going... And he looks at Tangi, her partner, and he says, "Make sure you look after her."
Yeah.
And then walked away. I said, "Do you need any money?" No. But that's him, hey?
Yeah. Special, Special man. Obviously mean a lot to you too. Like you guys had a special connection. You have with all your players, really.
His one-on-ones were in the gym, because in those days, guys would train in the morning and then go. But he'd come back and do his core. So I'd go in the gym with him, and we'd have our one-on-ones in there. And went to South Africa, and I said, to the security, "I need to go. Just check on the players, see where they're at." So we go to the pub where they're at, and here he is on the bar with his top off. And our next session, now I know why you do your course so well. What? Didn't know I was there watching him.
Oh, there's some good times. And one more guy I wanted to get a little bit more of an insight was Christian Cullen. obviously a legend of the game as well. What was
Yeah.
your relationship like with him?
Yeah, it was good. I think John Mitchell wanted him to move to the midfield
Oh, okay.
from fullback.
Yeah.
And so I thought he did a great transition from fullback to the midfield.
Yeah.
But wasn't to be.
Yeah.
We lost him. So I think he went to Munster and
Yeah, that's right.
had a great career there.
Yeah.
But they're good men, eh?
Mm.
Shit, they welcomed me in, for really a rookie coach
Yeah.
to come in. Among those, the Tunners and Christian Cullen and Jonas,
Yeah.
to be welcomed in. I was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Mm.
Man, it's so cool. So cool to hear. And then you move up to Taranaki, you're back home, you're head coaching. How was that?
Yeah, well, there was a little bit of, my mates are ringing me and going, "You coming home?" And I went, yeah. He said, "Well, there's at Parterre, they got the roadblock up. You're not supposed to be coming in here." I said, "What's going on?" And I went, and so they'd had the union and with the last coach, and Barnesy and Mark Robinson, they'd all had a bit of a difference, and so there was a bit of that going on when I came back. So obviously had with a few players, and I just said to the board, I'm really coming back to win it.
Mm.
I'm not coming back, just to develop rugby in Taranaki. I'm here to win it, and to win it, you're going to spend money, and to win it, we're gonna have to get the best players to win it. And they said, we agree with that. So that's when I said, okay, well, let's do that. But there was a lot of difference with the last coach and what had happened with him. So it's quite easy for me. I just brought in Clark Laidlaw, who was a skills coach at the time, Mike Collins, who was...
Yeah.
So just good people, you see. That he knew more of the players than I did, and we had a great trainer in Ella. Then we brought Adam Hay, and who's with the All Blacks now, and Shadow, who's overseas. So we got really good people in, didn't we?
Yeah.
Good players like yourself, Jimmy, and the Kurt Bakers, and there's so many. I don't want to say them all because I'm gonna miss someone out. But if we didn't do that, in my eyes, we would have lost the Barretts. We would have lost our own players, and so to keep your players, you got to make your team the team they want to stay. It's a bit like the competition. You want the competition to be the best. You got to make the competition better.
Yeah.
So the same sort of philosophy I was wanting was the best players.
Yeah.
And be able to compete, and we'd never won it, had we? In our
History.
120 odd years, we had never won it. So again, what I said to you, I'd hardened as a coach, and if you want to be the head coach, then you've got to fire the shots, and otherwise, go away, go home. Yeah. So we had a great relationship with the board. The board knew exactly where I was coming from and why I was coming home.
I remember that piece of advice you told me, I don't know when it was, might have been that year, but I remember asking you about coaching, and you always said, you can only coach as good as the cattle that you've got. So it was like the piece of advice where you said, the players are the biggest asset for any coach, so never go to a team if you're an aspiring coach to a team that doesn't have the roster, because it's not going to help you coaching. No.
So, and that's why I said to Brad, stick to assistant coaching, because when you're the head coach, there's a lot. It's totally different.
Yeah.
To being just a forward coach or a defence coach or an assistant coach, because you got to deal with so many people. I mean, in the Chiefs, I had 60 players and 24 staff.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting pulled off the field. Yeah. So, your passion is coaching, isn't it? Not managing people.
Yeah.
So, and it was, the Maoris was great too, because New Zealand Rugby were great to deal with, and the coaching group was great, and so those things worked. And the Chiefs, it was a real challenge, because from my time with the Crusaders and the Hurricanes to then go to the Chiefs, it's just the beast had got so much bigger.
Yeah. It's growing. It just keeps growing, doesn't it?
Yeah. So and so it was good to pull out of the Chiefs, go to Japan, stay at home. COVID was, so it was great. I was able to come home, and coach my grandson, because I never coached my own kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was too busy on the treadmill, the coaching treadmill, trying to be the All Black
Not the
coach.
actual treadmill doing fitness.
No, the coaching treadmill, and that when you're on that, it just goes.
Yeah.
you know. I laugh because I look at Brad and his phone's going all the time. I'm going, he's picking up calls everywhere, and I'm going, that's how it used to be with me. It's not. First thing I did was chuck my laptop away, because you just live on a laptop and looking at players and looking at opposition and reviewing your game. And, it's just it's go as a coach. So it's good to be coming back, Jimmy, and being a professional Uber driver. My wife's got to work, so I take her to work, and all my grandkids.
Well, you mentioned Brad, and it must be pretty cool as a father to see your son sort of progress through the similar sort of footsteps as you, coaching Taranaki, now assistant coach at the Hurricanes. Must be pretty proud.
But they're completely opposite, the two boys. I remember when I was coaching Taranaki in 2000, early 2000s, and Brad was always over my shoulder looking at the laptop. What? Because the video analyzing was, to me, is the tool.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to run that and you don't use it as a coach, you won't survive. So you need to understand huddle. It wasn't called huddle then. A sports code now. It wasn't called. I can't remember the name. It was.
Yeah, I know the one.
But and he was always over my shoulder looking, and he was a 10.
Yeah.
And we'd say, what would you do with would you pass that, Brad, or would you kick it? And he goes, I'd pass it. I said, well, fullback's got 70 metres. The over winger's up. So he was getting that young, that sort of stuff. Where's the other one? He says to me, can you stop getting your picture in the paper? You're embarrassing me. All my mates are laughing at me. I said, mate, I can't do anything about that. He'd walk away. So see how opposite they were?
That's crazy.
Yeah, we'd be in the Taranaki game, and Brad would be there, and he'd be like this, and where's the other one? The other one would be there, but he'd be way over the other. He'd just give me a wave. So, they were poles apart, and different. And Brad, I think, was always destined to coach.
Yeah. Oh, he's doing an awesome job. And
again, he's lucky. He's got Neil Barnes, probably the most experienced professional coach around.
Yeah.
He's learning from him. And he's got Hoiata.
Yeah.
They've got a great combination. So he's been lucky there. Barnesy had a back coach called Johnny Weston. So Johnny, because of work commitments, had to pull out.
Oh, yeah.
Brad was working for RDO like I was.
Yeah.
And he was in the house. So he
same steps.
Again, lucky. And then he gets the 20s.
Yeah.
So he gets into the 20s. They do okay.
Yeah.
And then he gets an opportunity to go to the Hurricanes. So.
Oh, it's so cool. Following Big Dad's footsteps. And you mentioned the 2014 final for Taranaki. What do you remember about that season and that game in particular?
Again, we'd had a group, hadn't we, that were together. We knew each other really well. I always remember going to Clifton. We had that rounding those sheep up, setting our values, and good leadership, yourself. And I think it was a bit like 2006 with the Hurricanes. That was our year to win it.
Yeah.
And this was our year we should have to take this out. I remember the build-up. We'd lost counties. Drew.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
Lost Hawke's Bay.
lost the Hawke's Bay just,
Yeah.
didn't we? But you could see we were uniting.
Yeah.
I think for a coach, the biggest adrenaline rush I get is when I see a group of men work together, win or lose. If they're working together for the game we're trying to play, that's the biggest buzz you can get as a coach.
Yeah.
And, from then on, I think we won 7 on the trot. We went to that one down in Tasman.
That's right.
That was so special, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So because I don't drink anymore, my special was a dessert.
You had a few that night.
Well, I had a few that year. So I might have put a bit of weight on. So, it was a special time, and it was like, if you're going to lose a final, it's better away from home, but we're at home,
Yeah.
with 20-odd thousand people.
Yeah.
We just couldn't lose, could we?
Yeah. It was one of those nights, everything sort of went our way as well. Cody Ray couldn't miss. A couple of intercepts from Charlie Ngātai.
And Charlie Ngātai's story, don't know if you guys know that, but he got injured, and Catherine, our physio, I said, "How is Catherine?" She said, "Goops, he's not going to be able to play in the semi, but if he could make the final, if you play him in the semi against Auckland, he definitely won't make the final." Yeah. And there's a Maori trip after. Leo goes, I said, "Oh, well, we won't be playing in the Auckland game. We'll save him for the final." Because Leo's going, "What? Coops, we haven't even in the final.
Yeah.
You got to have him in the semi-final." I said, No, we won't. That's the head coach.
Yeah.
He will play he won't play against Auckland. Wow, look what happened in the Auckland game. It go extra time. I could feel Leo all over me in that coach's box. Anyway.
Well, that's why I was 12. I only saw highlights yesterday on social media. I was wearing the 12 jersey in that day, so you'd moved me in.
Yeah.
Put Kurt to fullback.
That's right.
Because Charlie wasn't fit. I thought there must have been a
because
reason.
of his rib, you see.
That's
and that was
right.
Catherine.
Yeah.
And having confidence in Anita, Catherine, and Nikita. Just awesome people, eh?
Yeah.
That you rely on when they spoke. They was coming from their expertise. I mean, so Catherine, okay, Catherine, and of course, look what happened in the final with Charlie.
Yeah. Oh, would we have won without him? Probably not. Jeez, he had some big plays in it.
Yeah, just such a natural kid, eh?
Yeah.
I said to him with the Chiefs, I said, "Boy, why don't you not play Super and go overseas?" And because of his injuries with concussion.
Yeah.
And I was worried about him, and he goes, "No, I'll go overseas after.
Yeah.
I've complete my contract."
Yeah.
I said, "I can go and fight for you to get out, because I knew there was people wanting him overseas.
Yeah.
Particularly Japan. Coin was probably double what he was getting in Super.
Yeah.
But he stuck to his contract. So
oh, man.
he's special, eh?
Yeah, he was. A couple other players that I always remember you touting at a very young age was obviously Bowden Barrett, who's gone on to achieve every accolade that you predicted at a young age, but also Jamison Gibson Park, who I remember you saying first time I rocked up that this he'll be an All Black, he's special.
Yeah.
Wasn't an All Black, but geez, he's shown the world how special he is the last few years, hasn't he?
So he come from Gisborne.
Yeah.
He came over with a crew, and I said, "Look, you need to be able to do kick contestables as a halfback. You need to be able to kick both feet." I said, "You've got a right foot when you want to, when you think about it." I said, "But you got to have it all the time." He goes, "Coops, coaches just told me to run and pass, not kick."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, if you want to go the next step, those contestables have to be." And look at him now.
Man.
He's put out the Irish, who was the best box kicking 10 in the world, and he's put him out.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, isn't he?
Oh, he's
Gemmo?
easily one of the best nines in the world at the moment. And like you say, that contestable piece is a massive part of his game. And
So back in 14, it was Smiley. Smiley was just an older passion.
Yeah.
Where Gibbo, Jamo was still finding his feet.
Yeah.
So we had me and Leo had big discussions on which 9 would start.
Yeah.
But we went back to the old experience, man, and and making sure that Smiley, he got his, he got his start, and didn't he perform for us?
Yeah.
I remember when he ran back, covered that kick,
That's right.
and drove it back. I mean, that stuck in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And Bodie? What do you remember?
Oh,
about
well,
that?
he was always going to be special, Bodie.
Yeah.
I remember him missing a few kicks, and it didn't really worry me, just because he was so articulate with his work ethic and kicking, and just some of the stuff, the DNA that he's got. You just can't coach it.
Yeah.
Hey, so,
Yeah.
And on top of that, such a humble, great kid. I always remember Brad was coaching Taranaki under 16s. He rings me and says, "Dad, I got this kid. You got to contract him." I said, "What? 16?" and he goes, "You have to, Dad. When he gets out there, he's gonna get snapped up." I said, "What's his name?" He says, "Jordan Barrett."
Oh, yeah.
So and Kane Barrett, how unlucky for him. And
Yeah.
he would have gone all the way.
You reckon?
Also,
Yeah. No doubt.
Just with his physicality and his toughness, he probably didn't have the natural skill set of the other boys.
Yeah.
But he made super. I think if he had stayed in the game and and continued to learn his catch pass and his offloading, he would have pushed through.
Yeah, crazy to think, and sad to think that he never got the opportunity, because imagine having 4 Barrett brothers. You've seen what the other 3 have done. Captain, other 2 vice captains basically at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it had nothing to do with Scott. I know I was trying to get Scott to come back to Taranaki.
Yeah.
And that's where the support of the board gave me that to bring him back, but we couldn't get him out of Christchurch.
Yeah. He's back now though, isn't he? Not that he plays.
But he signed up with Taranaki.
Yeah.
So
anyway, good times. And then you moved to the Chiefs. Was that your choice, or how did the move to the Chiefs come about?
Again, it was sort of out of the blue. It was Ren's leaving and saying, because the culture in the Chiefs is similar to the Maori team. So so I was a good fit to come in. And when I saw what Ren's do, it was very similar.
Yeah.
I embraced it and tried to add more to it in what they were doing. And it's a great environment.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, and there's some great players. And at the time we were struggling with injuries. We'd lost a lot of players. We were battling. I think we lost 5 in a row. And once we got all our players back, then we had to go to South Africa. We drew with the Hurricanes, and so we were 4 losses and a draw. So we were 5-0 really. We went to Hurricanes and we beat the Bulls over there because we got our players back. And then we made the quarterfinals again, and we went to Argentina. We beat the Crusaders and Fiji.
Oh yeah.
It was a great. When I look back, the comeback we came from 4 losses, but it was time to leave because what I had in the Māoris in Taranaki was not like up in the Chiefs. It was, and I felt they'd had. It was time for me to move. Unbeknown to me, Gats was in the background.
Yeah.
Wanted to come home. So again, I don't go anywhere, Jimmy, if I'm not wanted.
Yeah.
You're best to go.
Yeah.
And I just felt that.
Yeah.
So moved home, decided not to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Stay home. The best decision I made, I reckon, staying home and being around particularly my grandchildren now, and guiding that. So, so that's didn't quite work. And then Gats came, and it would have been a shock for him to look at the culture, because the culture would have been a shock for any coach to come back and try and carry on with what the Chiefs were doing, and their culture. A lot of it's done on factual, historical facts that went on, and on the ground. The ground was a par, and it was acknowledged in that, and we've got our own haka and waiata, and there's Samoan waiata. So for particularly for any coach really to come to that, it was always going to be a tough. And with Clayton, Maori All Black coach, so easy for him to embrace that. I'm saying the culture, not the competition. The competition is tough, and if you haven't got the culture, I reckon 40% is selection.
40% selection,
No, 60% selection, 40% culture.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Geez, that's a good quote.
60% selection, 40% culture.
There
you go.
I like it. It will stick with me. I won't forget that one.
Yeah, well, Ted was the first person I heard say that, so that's from him.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure. Sorry if I'm wrong there, Ted, but I'm pretty sure I heard it from you. That's the thing in rugby, you always get around, you pick up something and you add to it.
That's the beauty of it. And you mentioned the New Zealand Māoris. Obviously got to play with them, coach them. I've heard some pretty good stories, loose stories from some of the tours that I think you were probably coaching. But how did you find the environment, New Zealand Māoris environment?
Yeah, loved it. Loved the environment. I had Luke Crawford was the Komar tour.
That's right.
He was the man that convinced me to go. New Zealand Rugby were always wanting me to, but my te reo is not strong enough, I felt, to be leading. He convinced me that he would do the te reo side, teach me my pepeha properly and help me with my pronunciation. And I met up with Luke, and I was just blown away by him and my respect to him. And so went and coached, and again it's hard because the players have just finished NPC, and as we were in that final, we had to get on a plane the next day.
Kurt Baker.
I mean, it's funny. It's funny when I think about it now. I'm the head coach of the Māoris, and I go, boys, we've got Tasman guys on the plane. Just keep the celebration down. And this guy was pissed. He comes on and he goes, "Nuggy, nuggy, nuggy!" And we had to smile. So we'd go, "Oh, look, we'll celebrate when it's just us."
Yeah.
So we're all I was going into the lift, and there was all the Taranaki boys, and we get in the lift and we're cheering. It's so funny.
Yeah, it was always a bit of a shame that you never got to celebrate the thing as a whole group because you had to shoot off. So
we should have had even just down Devon Street, a little parade for everyone together and the players. We should have, in hindsight, that should have happened instead of going away so early. But the thing is, you've got to play. You've got to play on the Friday, Saturday.
Yeah,
I think we were heading to Japan. The States, one or the other, and so if you leave it a day, then it's 2 days. You know what I mean? So it's a shame, and I think if they can sort that competition out better, they're going to get better results in New Zealand Māoris games.
How hard's that as a coach to coach for a short little campaign like that? So it's like 3 games on tour. Don't have long as a group. What's the keys to nailing that as a coach?
Well, as I said to you, selection and culture.
Oh, yeah.
We already got the culture.
Yeah.
So you got to select the right players.
Yeah.
That are going to fit that culture too. So, and that's whānau.
Yeah.
Being together, mahi together, and you pick those players. I've sent a few players home in my time. So because of that fact that a lot of the older boys would see it as a bit of a piss trip.
Yeah.
Or
that's probably some of the stories that have been told on here, but it sounds like it It was.
Yeah, so put a stop to some of it, or slowed it down
Yeah.
and stop it, because you still got to have fun, and alcohol drinking is a way to have fun if
Yeah.
it's controlled.
Yeah.
Back in my day, there was no control.
Yeah.
So, you still give young men time to have a fun, but put a safe, controlled environment around that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So when you've only got a week prep, you're still spending most of your time on the culture. You've nailed the selection. You then spending most of the time on the culture, a little bit on the game plan, but culture's key.
Well, you've got your coaches, like your assistant coaches, they work on the on the game plan.
As a
Willie
head coach,
and Jimmy,
yeah.
and Fish,
Yeah.
they're feeding back, and then you're just overseeing why are we defending like that, Fish, and getting them to challenge you, and then. But you have to drive the culture, and you have to make sure that you're meeting with your leaders, so they are driving the culture with you.
Yeah.
Can't be a Colin Cooper culture.
Yeah.
As you know, it can't be a Jimmy Marr culture either.
Yeah.
Just about was though. But you controlled all the fun side, Jimmy, and that was great. I didn't have to. It was all fun, wasn't it, that year?
Yeah.
And I had people in there that were driving that, so I didn't have to drive that. I just had to make sure that we were, training right, structured right.
Yeah.
Everything we were giving was correct. Our delivery had to be top notch. So, it was good times.
Yeah, good times. All right. Do you miss it? Do you miss coaching?
When I get in it, like I go with Irans,
Yeah.
so helping Wayne Taylor with Irans and really enjoying that, because he's a young man, and I love working with him because he is helping young men be the best they can be professionally, and he's showing them that, I'll get you to the door. This is what you need to get to the door of being a pro.
Yeah.
It's up to you now to push through. He's giving, their skill set, what to do in the gym, how to do their core sessions in the gym, how to do squat right and deadlift right. He's really good at that. Nutrition side, recovery side, how important recovery is. So these young kids are hearing it at a young age, and really I enjoy going to there. So Aaron Major, myself, Dale, I think Bordy's going to come up with the coaches. I do coaches or help the coaching.
Geez, that's a good setup. Good crew there.
Yeah,
Good.
and it's all down at the Hurricanes base.
Oh, yeah.
NZ.
Oh, it's moved from Palmy.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, so the facilities are outstanding.
Oh, incredible.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That green room?
Yeah. Special.
Ah,
You would have liked that back in the day.
So, and then of course there's all these other teams are there, the Phoenix and the Wellington Rugby's there, the Hurricanes. I don't know if Wellington is still there, but Hurricanes. And then you see like the 20s were there when we were at the last session, and the women's rugby were there. And so just, pros around all the time. It's great for the kids.
Yeah, so cool. Well, we have gone to our Instagram for some questions. A few came in. A lot of fans you have, Coops. First one, ask him about the influence Gary Topping had on him.
Yes.
Gary Topping?
Yeah, Gary Topping had a great influence on me, not just to get bigger and stronger, but know how to drink properly. So he had a influence on me in the gym and outside the gym. He's a special man. He's got a big base, probably as big as this, Greg. And he's got his gym, but he's got it set up as a gym, and he opens it to people in Waitara.
Was he an older guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's one of the older guys.
Took you under his wing.
Took me under his wing. Yeah.
Got you drinking.
And his wife Ivy just passed away. She's netball. She's right into netball. So Gary and Ivy were quite special. We're legends of Waitara really, and Clifton and netball.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Okay, next one. Most talented player you've ever coached? Oh, this will be tough.
Naturally talented? Bodie's probably so naturally talented, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. Charlie Ngatai,
Yeah.
another one. Blade Thompson.
Yeah.
They naturally talented. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And this one goes on to a little bit. Toughest player you've coached?
Hoiata's pretty tough. Yeah, he sort of comes out. But, you got Richie McCaw. I mean, man, he was such a tough guy. JC,
Yeah.
Drew Collins, Rodney. So I was pretty blessed with some tough boys.
Yeah. What age did you coach Richie?
Well, the 20s, New Zealand 20s.
Oh, New Zealand 20s. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Did you know he was going to be as good as he...
No, well, it was just his attitude. It's like he's, if you see kids that are skills and they haven't got a mental attitude of toughness, they're
Yeah.
going to struggle.
Yeah.
Well, he had a lion mentality.
Yeah.
He just, everything he did, the way he tackled, the way he worked hard,
Yeah.
the way he jackled. So he was
But
very,
not the skills.
But catch
Yeah,
and pass skills,
yeah.
he had to improve that, which he did.
Yeah.
Because he had a work ethic to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, JC, as I said before, JC, Rodders, Chris Masoe.
Oh,
Man, that three was pretty special.
pretty scary to be
Pretty scary.
playing against.
Yeah. Most teams would try and run it wide, but come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, social. I didn't know this, but you're a pretty good social cricketer
Oh,
and quite good at stitching up the young boys by all accounts.
no, it wasn't. I wish I'd played cricket when I was young.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it was all rugby and basketball. So, but I'd sit and watch 5-day cricket
Yeah.
all day long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just-
cricket, any cricket, New Zealand cricket I watch.
Yeah.
Stitch up young players. Well, I was drinking quite hard back then. So you can imagine I got out of rugby. I didn't have a social part. Most guys play rugby and then they have a social.
Yeah.
They go and play social rugby.
Yeah.
That's their... I didn't have any of that. So I finished in Taranaki and that was it.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, we'll go to cricket. And so we'd have, bus trips to crickets and we'd be having a few there, making up for the drinking there. So that was the period between retiring from rugby, then coaching.
Yeah.
It was in that period.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So 28, 29, 30, Karuba, Jack Daniels. Yeah.
Were you a batter or a bowler? Neither.
I was a bowler. I'd
Oh,
love
yeah.
to be a batter. I couldn't. I was always cross. What's that shot called? I could never
baseball.
I could never drive on the
Offside,
on
yeah.
the offside. I love watching it. I could never do that. I could just if you bowl short of me, I could hit it.
Oh, good. Okay, next one. 2 exact teams. Which team's winning? Colin Cooper coach side or Brad Cooper's side? And a coach off, you versus Brad.
Yeah, well, he's inexperienced. He'll be running everything. look at the way Taranaki exit now. I'd be too conservative, and I'd be picking tough guys. He'd be picking pretty good looking guys. That's the difference.
You'd strangle them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Next one. Hardest challenge as a coach?
Hardest challenge as a coach at South Africa.
Oh,
Coaching
yeah.
in South Africa.
Yeah.
The fact is, you've got to deal with the travel. It's like Brad. Brad goes to South Africa, does the 20s. I tell him all about recovery, boy. Particularly when you come home.
Yeah.
You need to do this. Make sure you stay awake on the Aussie flight home. Stay up. Don't go to sleep until it's night. So you get back in the time zone.
Yeah.
So you got to deal with all that. So he gets, no worries. I said, mate, I've been there 9 times.
Yeah.
I do know what I'm talking about. He comes back, we're talking away, and he falls asleep at the dinner table. I'm going, there you go, boy. So you got a lot to learn, that kid. But South Africa, yeah, well, you got to deal with the travel. You got to deal with the altitude. So if you're back in our day, we'd go to Joburg, which is high veld.
Yeah.
And we'd go down another flight down to Cape Town, which is sea level.
Yeah.
But there's like a 4-hour waiting for the. You've just done 14 hours to get there.
Yeah.
And then you get to Cape Town, you get 3 or 4 days, and you got to come back to Joburg. It's not like the All Blacks; they get 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Super Rugby, you got, then you go back and you play the Lions in Johannesburg. Then you come down and play Durban. You play the Sharks in Durban.
Yeah.
And you got to go back home. And the Stormers are sitting at Wellington waiting for you.
Yeah.
And you got to climatise back again. So I know the players didn't like it, but the competition was pretty good, pretty tough over there.
Yeah. Definitely. Do you think it has affected the quality of the comp without having the South Africans in there?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. That's why I
Only
say
we've had to.
you got to have the best competition for people to watch it. So don't let your players go to a lesser competition because of money.
Yeah.
Pay the money.
Yeah.
And have them make it the best competition. So, why should All Blacks not be able to play in Aussie teams and still behave for the All Blacks? At the moment, you go to Japan, you can't.
Yeah.
So make our competition the best. Put them in, make Fiji better. And make our competition that everyone wants to watch.
Yeah.
And so our players stay. Now, if they at the end of their career and it's too tough and physical and go overseas, that's different. They're probably ready not to be an All Black.
Yeah.
But why should the All
prime.
Blacks suffer because we're not picking players outside? Well, that's probably a good way to do that.
Yeah.
Make our competition better.
Yeah.
Get the Aussies involved. I mean, help the Aussies. Give them players and let some rich bloody miner over there pay for that player.
Yeah. Well, make a lot of sense.
Anyway,
Well, I like that. Okay, next one. Keys to being a successful coach.
yeah, you got to know your game. You got to have the knowledge.
Yeah.
You got to have good people around you, and so you got to have people that are living your values. So, one of my biggest is honesty.
Yeah.
So, if I'm going to go with a guy that's not honest with his players and says stuff that that he's not going to do, or he's not going to select, or he's promising stuff, then I probably won't go with that coach.
Yeah.
That's what I'm meaning about similar values.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing, is to work with a coach that's similar to your values. So honesty, work ethic is probably, top of my line.
Two big
And I
ones.
want players like that. And I want players to be honest with each other and tell it how it is. But once you get that, then they've got to have detail.
Yeah.
They've got to know, particularly at that super level, you can't go in there. Well, I don't think, if you're coaching an under-21 team and you've come from an under-15 team and you haven't got yourself updated with skill, how to deliver skill, and how to particularly understand if they've got what you were trying to deliver, but you've got to have the skills to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like catch and pass. I mean, hands up early, watch it with the fingers, pass across your body, stay square. That's that little key factors that you as a coach need to know that.
Yeah.
And then, once you know that, then how do you deliver it? And on top of that, your values have to be similar. So it's a big process.
Yeah, there's a bit to it.
Yeah, a lot to it, about who you go with. That's why I go back to Brad. He's lucky he's with a group.
Yeah.
Particularly Barnesy, that's been there, done it.
Yeah.
He's hard-working, honest, tough guy. He says it how it is, where I couldn't quite be as strong as that. You know, sometimes there's a different way. Take that player away and talk to him individually.
Yeah.
Barnesy tells it how it is, and that's great.
Yeah.
So we're all different. It's how we deliver to get the point across.
Did you always feel like you were more of a head coach or natural head coach over an assistant? Obviously, it happened pretty quick, didn't it?
Yes, it happened really quick. Depending on who your who your head
Working
coach
with,
is and
yeah,
who
of
you're
course,
working with. Yeah. So, but again, the head coach is, it's all on him.
Yeah.
So he's got to be ruthless. And,
Yeah.
he's got to make big decisions. Like I go back to that final.
Yeah.
We should never have played it.
Yeah.
I was too soft.
Mate, so good to get the insight. Okay, last question. I ask everyone this to finish, but best piece of advice for a Waterloo listener?
Live life and try, and I reckon for me it's try things. Yeah, don't sit back and think, I could have. You know, if it's on for you to go into that sport, then you should go into that sport. If it's on for you to make that trip, then make that trip, because as I said to my players, once it's all over playing, it's over.
Yeah.
You ain't coming back.
Yeah.
So make the most of it. That's why with Benty, said that to Benty a couple of years ago, and they won it last year.
Yeah.
He always comes up to me and thanks me for that advice. So
That's good advice. Yeah.
so live life. That's and do have a go at it. And if it's if it doesn't work, well then at least you've had a go.
Yeah. Oh, what a way to finish one of the best podcasts ever. Appreciate you coming on, Coops. I know it's the first time coming on a podcast, but what a story you've got to tell, and you're someone I respect so highly. I had such good memories of my time up here working with you, and some special times that will live with me forever. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks, Jimmy.
You're a lad.